The National Union of Metal Workers and the South African Cabin Crew Association say they're happy to have secured an increase in the number of workers who keep their jobs at SAA. 6 major labour unions and government reached an agreement yesterday with regards to severance packages for the SAA employees. Unions say the airline will retain 1,000 employees and a further 1,000 will go on a training and layoff scheme. Training will take place through SETAS. We're joined now via Skype by NUMSA spokesperson PHAKAMILE MAJOLAand and the president of the South African Cabin Crew Association, Zazi Nsibanyoni. Ladies, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Let's start with you, PHAKAMILE. Why are you happy about this agreement?
Good morning, Desiree, and good morning to your listeners, your viewers rather. Well, for us, it really is a positive step in the right direction. There is still a lot that we need to finalize and negotiate, particularly given that the business rescue plan itself has to be presented to creditors next week, and we still have to apply our minds to some of the amendments that they've proposed on the table. But certainly with respect to the voluntary severance packages, we have been afforded an opportunity to engage with DPE and ensure that we get the best kind of package that we can, considering the circumstances facing workers. We believe that what has been negotiated up until this a positive step, particularly because what had been on the table before not, in our view, provide enough protections and support and cushioning for workers, and particularly the fact that we've now come to a point where DPE has agreed that the airline should start off not just with 1,000 employees, but also accommodate an additional 1,000, speaks directly to our goals as unions, which has been consistently to try and save as many jobs as we possibly can. And we believe that we are certainly very close to achieving that goal.
Nsibanyoni-Mugambi, what are you thinking right now? What are your thoughts in terms of the way forward? Are you also happy with this outcome?
I mean, look, firstly, we didn't see a need for any specific agreement to be signed, as VSPs are voluntary sort of process. So we have not opposed them being offered to our members on an individual capacity. And of course, we could find ourselves with not having an excess of maybe 3,000 people that are still remaining. And we are saying we still want to engage with the DPE in terms of furlough or, reduce salaries and those kind of arrangements. But we believe that the people that want to take the VSPs should go ahead and secure them as we continue to talk for those people that, still want to be employed.
So, separate from the VSPs, PHAKAMILE, this has been quite a long road, and both your organizations have really worked hard to try and iron out the details. What other details are you still working on in terms of saving jobs at SAA?
Well, the key for us, pardon me, the key for us, as I said, was the fact that we've now got commitment from DPE that instead of 1,000 employees, we would have 2,000. The remaining 1,000 will be on training layoff. This is something that we've been really been championing from day one. With respect to the voluntary severance packages, one of the things that we have managed to negotiate through our bilaterals with the DPE is, for example, the fact that employees will receive outstanding back pay due to them as a result of the 5.9% wage increase, which we had secured last year following the strike. We have also, I think more than anything, ensured that for those workers who take a decision to accept the voluntary severance package, that they're not actually left worse off. You'll remember, Desiree, that the reason we went to court in the first place in April over the attempts by the business rescue practitioners to retrench workers was precisely because what they were offering on the table in terms of packages were empty packages. There was nothing there. So what we think we have negotiated through these bilaterals with the DPE is far more beneficial to workers. And we continue to work with them specifically with regards to the final plan. There are still quite a few areas that are outstanding that we need to engage on. But we believe that if we can continue to engage, particularly ahead of this crucial meeting on the 14th of July, hopefully we can find ourselves having amended the plan, having improved on the plan, so that the plan is a plan that actually works in the interests of workers and the South African public in general.
Zazi, clarify this training for us. Is it training to add value to your skills, or is it training to phase out the particular or the individual positions?
Well, this training is basically championed by the CCMA. So we'd have to collectively with the DPE make an application for these a number of people to go on this training layoff. And that would mean that that program would pay employees around 17,000. And the DPE has committed to topping up that that payment to 4,650. In order to cover people's medical aids, pensions, UIF, etc. in the interim. And the purpose of this is to upskill people and not have the burden of paying salaries on the company itself, and while people are gaining skills. So as the company then ramps up and begins to grow, those people will be reabsorbed into operations. And you still have a pool of people that you can pull on should operations come, go up in a quicker rate. So we are hoping that we can expedite that. As you know, that was part of our wage agreement, the last wage agreement, and people have dragged their feet. And this process could have started a while back, but it needs to be fast-tracked in order to save this 1,000 employees that are outstanding.
Yeah. Do you have any plans in terms of the workers who might not be fortunate enough to be retained? HLUBI? Ms. HLUBI?
Well, this is what VSP is for. It's a voluntary process, which means that it's not something that's going to be imposed on workers. The VSP is an offer which has been presented on the table by the PE for those workers who wish to take up that package. A situation where we find ourselves with more than 2,000 workers who wish to retain or stay at SAA, then we have said, as Comrade Zazi has mentioned, that there are other avenues that can be regards to what can happen to them or their status. We would, as far as is humanly possible, like to avoid retrenchments, because retrenchments in this economic climate, when aviation as a sector is going through a lot of serious turbulence, it would really leave workers in a far worse situation. So we are hoping that those who do not take up VSPs can, as much as is possible, be absorbed in the new airline, just in different ways. It might not work through the training layoff scheme. It might have to be a different avenue that we pursue, but those are some of the talks that we need to continue to have with the DPE on this issue.
Zazi, are you able to tell us about your membership and how they have received this news? And are people enthusiastic about taking voluntary severance packages, or is there resistance?
I think there's a big element of fear, Desiree. People are scared that they can be left with nothing at the end of the day. So I think the VSP process, or them being afforded the option of taking it, has alleviated some of the pressure. And but there's also people that have indicated that there are no jobs out there. So if I take a VSP, how far will it get me? How long will it be able to sustain me through this particular period? And those are the people that we are saying, should they be left over, we can sit down and really look at options like job sharing, reducing salaries in order to accommodate more of us. furloughing for those that might want to go away for a while and do something else. But we are obviously looking at those various aspects, but also allowing those people that just are left with no choice to take the VSP, because as you know, workers have not received salaries for 2 months. So there's a big element of desperation. But I think people must make informed decisions for their own lives, and we'll continue to talk for those that, still believe they want to be employed.
PHAKAMILE, what's the situation at NUMSA? Is there a buy-in?
It's definitely a mixed bag. There are those who are under tremendous pressure because they haven't received their incomes, and so they believe that the VSP really is the best option out. There are, however, others who still really want to pursue and continue to pursue a career in aviation, and they would want to be part of the new SAA. So I can't at this point give you an exact picture of who will take or who will not. But what we have said in our engagements to them is that if they wish to accept the VSP as the union, we will not stand in their way. For us, we really were more concerned about ensuring that those who take up these options don't end up in a worse off situation, getting packages, for example, that don't match up with their years of service. And all we had been calling for, which is why there was also a delay, was an opportunity to engage meaningfully on what was being offered on the table. And at least now we have had that opportunity. We've had the bilaterals with DPE. We found ways to tweak and improve where we can improve. And this is why we're now saying to members that if you choose to take up the VSP, we will not object as a union.
Of course, our conversation today is only but one aspect of the overall process. In the bigger scheme of things, where is the conversation about the retention of SAA? Is it a foregone conclusion that a new airline is going to come? And your conversations with the DPE. Let's start with you, Zazi, and then PHAKAMILE.
I think obviously we are all waiting for the creditors meeting on the 14th. We've obviously received the amendments of the business rescue plan, which we are still studying at the moment. But obviously the creditors must vote and for the plan on the 14th. And thereafter, there's a need for funding, and government must then come to the fore and indicate where they plan to get the funding for, and indicate what strategic equity partners exist as we navigate this way. But I think the new airline, it has to come with a brand new fit for purpose board, and the old must really excuse us and let new dynamic minds come to the fore, as well as executive management. Because if we continue with the same board and the same management that led us here, we're really going nowhere slowly. So we just also call on the DPE to ensure that actually takes place in order to boost confidence, and also to actually work with people that have a different mindset and idea about the future of South African Airways.
PHAKAMILE, as I asked you to hold on to your thoughts about responding to the question as I'd asked you earlier, let's just bring in the Public Enterprises Department that says most unions have agreed to accept severance packages as part of the business rescue process at the South African Airways. The National Union of Metal Workers, we're speaking to PHAKAMILE about that, and the South African Cabin Crew Association say they're happy that more SAA employees will keep their jobs. 6 major labour unions and government reached an agreement late yesterday with regards to retrenchment at the troubled national carrier. For more on the story, we're joined live now by Public Enterprises Deputy Director General Advocate Melanchton Makobe. I hope I didn't mangle your name there, Mr. Makobe.
Melanchton. It's Melanchton.
Melanchton Makobe. Thank you so much for joining us. How many employees will be retained at SAA?
It's 1,000 employees, as we said in our statement, that will be retained. And there will be a further 1,000 that will be on a training scheme for a period of 12 months. And those employees will not be receiving a salary for the 12-month period, but SAA will contribute a maximum of 4,650 towards their pension, UIF, and medical aid.
Has the package been given the thumbs up by representatives of non-unionized managers?
Yes, the non-unionized managers, including the unions, some of whom you are hosting there on your show, have agreed on this. But the business rescue practitioners will then have to extend the VSPs to the relevant employees, who will have to then personally decide to accept them.
Do you have an indication just how many SAA employees will be retrenched?
Well, as we have said, we are estimating that about 2,700 employees will take up the VSP. But as is a voluntary process, we cannot, with certainty, give you a number of those that will accept. But we are hoping that around 2,700 employees will be able to accept the VSP.
The retrenched employees, how soon will they be able to access the VSP?
Obviously, the business rescue plan will have to be voted on at the creditors' meeting on the 14th of July. And after those meetings, then the necessary offers will be made to those employees immediately after the plan has been approved at the creditors' meeting.
And the retrenchment packages will be supported by a social skills development plan. Can you elaborate on what this entails?
Well, the skill development plan is a training for those employees. As we had said, 1,000 of them will be on that training layoff scheme to try and just give them skills, additional skills that will make them to make a contribution in the aviation industry. Even if they are not absorbed at SAA, they should be able to get jobs somewhere. So that training layoff scheme is for that purpose, and is critical in this part of the package.
We're actually having a conversation with you at the same time as NUMSA and the Cabin Crew Association. But what is the status of the SAA Pilots Association, who have apparently not accepted the deal?
Well, they did indicate that they are not opposed to what has been decided at the Leadership Consultative Forum, which they were part of. So they are not opposed to the VSP being extended to the employees, which will include their members. But they did indicate that they would like to further consult with the business rescue practitioners about certain issues that they might have. So that we will leave to them to have that consultation as they requested with the business rescue practitioners.
PHAKAMILE and Zazi, let me bring you back into the conversation. Just in terms of the pilots not accepting this development, does it affect the credibility of the process going forward?
We wouldn't say that. I think...
Go ahead, Pax, it's fine.
Oh, okay. I didn't want to interrupt my comrade.
That's okay.
I wouldn't necessarily say that, because I think the pilots have their own constituency and they're a trade union in their own right. They also have to follow their own processes and ensure that their members are satisfied, just like we had to do the same for our members. So I think it's really just about them expressing where they are at the moment. And as you know, we are continuing to engage with the DPE. So I'm sure as the days go by and there's further engagements, there will obviously be further developments, and perhaps they will also, find themselves agreeing to this arrangement.
Zazi, are you worried about the pilots possibly getting a better, more attractive deal?
Desiree, I think the pilots have indicated very strongly that they, around the 2.2 billion, they can sort of play around with that number and have a more positive outcome. So that's basically what they're busy trying to get on the table. And they've put it to all unions to say, if we can use this 2.2 billion in a more effective way, are you amenable to coming along with us? And we've indicated, yes, absolutely we are. But they've also indicated that, should the DPE offer the VSPs to their members, they will not oppose as well. So I don't think we're very far from each other. And I think there's still lots of room for discussions amongst ourselves and the DPE. And the aim here is to come out with a successful airline and a thinner one with that doesn't see massive job losses. So we're all on the same page. It's just about how we get there at the end.
I just want to bring back the representative from the Department of Public Enterprises who's on the line with us this morning and ask you, can the retrenchments go ahead with the SA Pilots Association, or are you holding out until they come to some sort of agreement since this process is voluntary?
Well, they did indicate that they are not opposed to their members being offered the voluntary severance. So that will proceed, and the business rescue practitioners will, after the business rescue plan has been voted on, continue to extend those VSPs to the employees, which will include the pilots. But they still indicate that they will want to be engaging the business rescue practitioners, and they are free to do that. But insofar as we are concerned, the BRPs now will be empowered after the BR plan has been voted on to extend those VSPs to the employees, including the pilot.
Now, as the shareholder, is the department confident next week's vote will be successful? If yes, what happens thereafter?
We are quite confident that the vote will carry through with 75% of the creditors, and we would like to call upon all the creditors of SAA to vote positively for this business rescue plan, as it will be a positive step towards the restructuring of SAA and getting into a new era. So we're quite confident that on the 14th, the creditors will vote positively.
All right, so I'll ask you a question I've already asked PHAKAMILE and Zazi. In terms of the overall conversation outside of just the labor section of this conversation, what's the way forward for SAA? I think the public wants to know this.
Well, the way forward is that we will have to wait for the creditors' meeting for the business rescue plan to be approved. And once it's approved, then the restructured SAA will come out of that, and then the SAA will continue flying high. The purposes of a business rescue process is to restructure this airline, and the plan is one of the important milestones towards that. And once that is approved, then SAA can continue on a structured basis.
The conversation about restructuring, does it involve looking at the new business model with regards to the other conversation that's taking place at the moment about the restructuring of state-owned enterprises? Is there a conversation at all about removing government, for argument's sake, from the structure of the new airline?
Well, as we indicated, we have received expression of interest from strategic equity partners who have an interest in SAA. We are evaluating those expression of interest from the strategic equity partners, and who are really willing to come in at SAA and assist in one way or another. So we are still evaluating that, and government has been on record to say we are open for strategic equity partners to come and be part of SAA.
Let's thank you for talking to us, Advocate Melanchton Makobe. But just to finish up the conversation, PHAKAMILE, way forward for members of NUMSA?
Way forward for us would be to engage with absolute transparency with the DPE. We've been on record in past statements saying, particularly with respect to expression of interest of investors, we would like that information to be disclosed to us. We would like to know who these investors are, and we would like to know in detail what their interests are in the airline. We would not like a situation where this airline is being pruned in the interests of people that are sort of standing in the background and we don't know what the full picture is. And also we would like a business rescue plan that is amended and that is in line with the Companies Act. And this is what we hope for going into that vote on the 14th. It's not a simple case of that we should be convinced to vote for the plan. The plan as it stands right now needs to be amended, and it needs to reflect the wishes and the input of stakeholders, particularly unions.
Zazi, your union, how are you engaging with this process going forward?
I mean, like PHAKAMILE said, we're waiting for the creditors' vote. I mean, our stance has always been we'll do everything possible to avoid the liquidation of South African Airways. So as that happens, we also, post the vote, we are also saying SAA should take to the skies as soon as possible, because if we do not do that, we will lose our market share. So we need to compete before the global market swallows us in order for us to compete. And we are obviously hoping that people will actually put their faith back in SAA, and SAA can go back to its former glory, free of corruption and the looting that has happened historically. So we are optimistic that we are heading in the right direction, and we are going to continue to engage with the DPE in order to find, our way past this road that we're on.
Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us this morning. PHAKAMILE MAJOLAand is with NUMSA, and Zazi Nsibanyoni-Mugambi is with the Cabin Crew Association, the latest in terms of the labor segment of the SAA process. You're watching The Agenda. Let's take a break.